Hello, everyone. Today I am joined by Preston Parsons, UFC welterweight, takes on Matthew Semelsberger this week at UFC Fight Night 234. Preston, how we doing today?
Doing good, very good. Just got out of the morning run and feeling ready to go train here a little bit at the PI around 11 a.m.
Okay.
So feeling good.
Good, good. I love to hear it. So I know you've actually done a bit of work at the PI. I actually wanted to ask you about what are some of the impacts you feel that working with the PI has made on your career? What kind of improvements does it make inside and outside of the cage?
It's a blessing to be able to use the PI. They kind of tracked where my strengths were, where my weaknesses were when I did all their evaluations. Having access to the cages before a fight is priceless because we train in small quarters a lot of times. Using the cage, it's a lot different when you have that much room to move around. So it makes it a little bit different for setting up my strikes, setting up my takedowns, and everything else. So having access to the PI is a game changer. And I always explain it to my friends. It's pretty much like the NFL of MMA.
Yeah, no, it seems like it's really just like a next level step. I feel like no other promotion has anything close to what the UFC PI has. It really is like crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I saw your behind the scenes too when you were getting ready for your fight with Evan Elder and you went to the beat building and you were talking to Forrest Griffin and them and they just give you everything you need. You had like a whole bag of supplements. You got everything. I mean, they were checking on
Yeah,
your weight and
exactly.
everything.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They do it. They have more of a scientific approach than they did
Very.
in the past. Like now they're tracking how much water we're drinking. They're tracking our meals and everything. And
Mm.
I'm not too stressed about that stuff because I get here and they already have my meals pretty much laid out for me,
That's perfect,
along with the
honestly.
supplements and stuff too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So you were originally scheduled to fight Basil Hafez this weekend. I mean, he pulled out with an injury, and the Semelsberger fight. How did it come together? I mean, it's a pretty big matchup. It's a pretty fun one.
Um, I'm not quite sure exactly how they picked Semelsberger.
Hmm.
They didn't really give me options. And again, I'm up to fighting anybody. I want to be the UFC champion, so I'm going to fight whoever they put in front of me. Basel was definitely more of a grappler than Semelsberger is, so that kind of changed the game plan a little bit. But I do believe that me fighting Matt Semelsberger is a better matchup for me than it would have been Basel.
Okay, so
Either way, I was confident I was going to come out with the win.
okay, but you think that this is now a better matchup for you, actually?
Yes, I think so. And I
Okay,
think Semelsberger has a little bit more of a following, so that'll also do good once I
yeah,
go out there and get a
I
win.
definitely would agree with that. So, was there ever a thought of potentially not accepting the replacement, or were you just gonna take whoever they gave you, no matter what?
There was never a doubt that I was gonna not gonna fight.
Yeah, I figured.
I've been training for this for a while now. I haven't been as active as I'd like to be in the
Mm,
UFC since I started back in 2021.
mm.
So, and that goes with the two hand injuries that I had. And then after my last fight, I didn't really have any serious injuries. I just took some time away to kind of get my own life in order.
Okay.
I went on a few trips and I did some stuff for training with the troops.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Honduras now. I've been to Cuba, went to Greenland, and that was a cool experience, especially for me, never being out of the country and then going to all those places. It was quite a culture shock.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about that MMA Titans tour that you did with Jose Torres, Jessica Penne, and Charles Rosa. I mean, you had a pretty star-studded cast there, and you guys just kind of spent a bit of time together going and training with the military. How was that whole experience?
It was awesome. I feel like I made some good lifelong friends
Good.
with Jessica, Jose, or Shorty, and
Mhm.
Charles. I still talk to them pretty often here on Instagram and text and stuff. We keep up with each other.
That's really
But
awesome to hear, honestly. It's good that, like, even though it involved fighting, it was something that really didn't involve your careers necessarily, and you guys all were still able to bond over that and, like, find new friendships. It's pretty cool.
right.
You don't see stuff like that often. So how was training the troops? Because I know you're a coach normally back in Florida, but how was being able to coach some people that aren't necessarily like looking to learn MMA specifically?
Um, it was pretty easy if I'm being honest.
Okay.
I always stick with fundamentals, especially when I'm working with new guys. So I'm good at just going over the basics. Fundamentals win fights, and you can never go wrong showing basics. I mean, I still drill the basics over and
Hmm.
over and over again. I always felt like martial arts was about repetition. So it wasn't too tough, the actual training, the troops, but it was definitely cool to be able to I could see how excited they were to work with us, and to see like the excitement in their faces was pretty cool.
That is really cool, honestly. It must be nice to know that you're like, you're giving back in your own way to the people that, do so much for us. So it's definitely must be like, fulfilling in a sense on the inside.
100%.
Yeah. So you have your own gym down in Florida. You have a lot of guys that train in and out of there. I just wanted to ask who some of the smaller names that aren't as well known are that you'd like to maybe put some spotlight on.
First off, Corey Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got TK, Tim Klein.
Okay.
He's another guy that's had a great amateur career, and he's looking to start his pro career.
Okay.
We have Owen Binding. He wants to start his pro career. Walter Zalea. There's quite a few other amateurs out of our gym, but we have a few big names out of there as well now too. Trey Waters, Stephen
Mm-hmm.
Coslow, Seth Dupuis, Austin Lane, Ramon Tavares. And it's kind of cool because before 2 years ago, there was no UFC fighters in Jacksonville, and now we've got 4 or 5 of them, and we all train together. It's cool to see that we can all cross train and train together.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. Like you said, fellow UFC welterweight Trey Waters, he's going to be in your corner this weekend. I know you've gotten work in with Jakub Kazuba before too, who won the
Yeah,
PFL
for
Europe
years.
Championship. I mean, you guys got a really, really solid team out there. Like I was honestly pretty surprised as I dug deeper and deeper into your team and realized how many like high level fighters you guys have for such a small gym still.
Right.
Very, very impressive. I think that you deserve some props for that. So round of applause to you, seriously, because that's
Thank you.
very
I
cool.
appreciate that.
Of course.
Thank
So
you. I put the building there, and then those guys have been with me for 12, 15 years now. So we were just looking for a new spot to train, and
okay.
so we opened the gym, and that's history.
Hey, I'm glad everything's gone smoothly so far. So I wanted to ask, you train these, amateur guys, these guys that are just getting into the sport, but what first got you into the sport?
So a lot of things. So growing up, I was always real into the Rocky movies. I always knew that I wanted to be some kind of athlete. I wanted to
Okay.
be a football player originally, and then I wanted to be a boxer. So it's always been some kind of athletics. That is what I wanted to be involved in as a grown up. Um, I didn't really know what MMA was until my stepdad introduced it to me. And there was a time growing up, I did karate for about 4 or 5 years, and
Okay.
I loved it. So, and that was like my thing until it wasn't cool anymore in middle school. So I stopped doing it. But then, in around 6th, 7th grade, a lot of family issues started happening, and started hanging out with the wrong crowd, started getting into wrong kind of stuff, just trouble,
Gotcha.
partying, drinking, and didn't really have much guidance. We had with everything that happened with my parents, me and my brother kind of had free reign at our house for like 2 or 3 years where it was
Okay.
just us. Something I'm not proud of, and I don't really tell people about much, is that stopped going to school around that time, and that was the beginning of 10th grade. So still never graduated, and which again, that's not something to be proud of or
No,
something to
but
brag about.
you
Something
you
I'm
never
definitely not
you never
proud of.
graduated high school at all?
No.
Wow. Okay. That's
Like I
that's
said,
impressive though. Impressive
it
that
was
you've
around
gotten where
that
you are.
time, right? It was around that time where we didn't really have any guidance. There was nobody telling me to go to school. There was nobody to drive me to school. So I kind of had the choice, like wake up in the morning and do whatever I want, or wake up and walk myself to school. So obviously, I chose the easy one
I think we all
at the
would at that
time.
age.
Yeah, exactly. So that. But then one day, I started hanging out with some of the wrestlers, and my stepdad came into my life,
Okay.
and they moved back home with my mom,
Mhm.
and he introduced me to MMA, showed me some of the old school Hoist Gracie fights and stuff like that. And as soon as I saw jujitsu, I was like, that's for me. That's what I want to do. So I sought out a gym that was local. I met my wrestling coach, Coach Caleb Pelletier, and he really kind of changed my life a little bit. He's the reason, or one of the reasons, why my grappling is where it is. And he just kind of gave me that wrestler's grind, because again, I didn't really do much in high school. So I didn't wrestle in high school. I didn't really train to or do any athletics in high school like I would have liked to.
Okay.
But meeting him was a blessing, because he gave me that wrestling experience that I really needed, and that I still use to this day.
How did you end up meeting him?
He was at the gym. He was one of the coaches at the
Okay.
gym that I was at. And we didn't have too many great coaches there at the time. but he was the one was that saw potential in me, and he gave me the time of day. We would spend hours together training, and he would beat the crap out of me over and over and over again. And eventually I started getting to the point where I would even get in on takedowns, and that was a win for me. So little
Gotcha.
successes with him kind of built my grappling up.
Yeah, just slowly building and building, just starting to, oh, I got the single leg. Oh, I got the double leg. Oh, I can trip him now. And just,
Yeah,
just working
exactly.
your way there. No, definitely. So where did you have a close relationship with your stepdad? It seems like, he was a fairly decent influence in your life.
Yes, yeah. I've known him for a long time. My mom owns a towing company, and he's always been one of the drivers for her.
Oh, okay.
I grew up in a restaurant business as well. My whole Parsons side of the family is Parsons Seafood,
Oh,
Seafood
okay.
Kitchen. So I grew up in a restaurant for pretty much my whole life, and then right across the street was my mom's tow truck company.
Okay.
So my stepdad was always around. My real dad, he's more good than bad, but yeah, he's definitely my dad. But I would say, as far as like a positive impact, my stepdad definitely guided me and put me on the right path. So whenever I talk with my parents, I mean my mom and Daryl, my stepdad. And again, I love my real dad,
Hmm.
and he's more good than bad, and he's taught me a lot of great things along the way. But um, I will contribute a lot of my success to Daryl and my mom.
That's really cool that he was able to, like step up and just be such a positive influence in your life. You usually just kind of see the stepdad, not ignore the kid or like, just not be what your stepdad was in your life. And it just seems like he really made a massive influence and massive turning point in your life and is the reason why you are doing what you're doing right now.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And it's he treats me like I'm his own son. He's and every time I fight and I win, or if I do anything good, it's one of my motivations is to make him proud and to show them that I followed through with what I said I was going to do. I said I was going to become a UFC champion, and that's what's going to happen.
I love that. That's really cool. So I wanted to ask, what's your favorite seafood then? If you got a whole seafood side of your family.
With that, I grew up eating it my whole life, so I prefer steak and chicken.
Okay.
But if I had to pick a seafood that I do enjoy most, I'd say salmon and shrimp.
Definitely a good choice. Definitely a good choice. I love me. Nice, good piece of salmon. So, you talked about a crucial mistake you had made in your last fight. You blew your nose between rounds, and that caused your eye to completely basically swell shut. Just talk a little bit more about, that mistake and how it played out throughout the fight.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to get here and acclimated to the environment and the weather as a little bit sooner than I did in my other fights.
Mhm.
There's no excuses to any of it, but going into the last one, I just had like I was coming off of a little cold, so I had a little bit of a sniffle, and I'm dealing with kind of the same thing now.
Okay.
And when you're fighting, you got something in your nose, you want to be able to breathe the best you can, so you don't really care. You're just pushing it out, blowing snot rockets all over the octagon. But I I definitely looked worse than I felt
Okay.
with that. You know, my orbital wasn't fractured, but my eye definitely was swollen shut.
Yeah, could
But
you see out of it or no?
no, not
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
I didn't think so. I didn't think so. It looked bad by the time that fight was over. I can't lie.
Now I will say that I did have a headache that night and
Okay.
the following day.
That
So
makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So I saw you weighed 180 pounds just a couple days before your fight with Evan Elder. Do you normally not cut much weight, or is this something that you're changing?
um, So my whole amateur career, I fought at 155,
Hmm.
and then my first two pro fights were 55, and then when I fought Mike Perry, I did it at a catch weight at 160.
Okay.
And I guess I was making 155 when I was 18. I'm 28 years old now, so that was 10 years ago. I walk around 190.
Okay.
So usually I cut anywhere between 15 to 20 pounds. So I'm not a small welterweight. I'm not huge. I'm not killing myself to make weight.
Yeah.
I can make 170 on a 5 days notice any day of the week. So it's I normally don't walk around right at 180.
Okay.
Like right now, even after I've started the water loading and after the run this morning, I was 187.
Okay.
So I'm not a small welterweight by any means. I'm definitely cutting weight, but I'm not a weight bully.
Good. Good. I've definitely, from what I can tell, it hurts to be able to cut that much more weight. I mean, you see a lot of guys in today's day and age dropping moving up weight classes because they can't continue to lose all that weight.
Right. And that's another thing. I'll be able to fight 170 for the rest of my career.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know, 55, that's a little bit too much.
Yeah,
And I'm not
you
even
would
going
have
to look
ended
for
up having
pain.
to switch to 170 at some point anyway, so you might as well get used to it now.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I never felt like the reason I lost a fight was because I was oversized or overpowered. It always came down to like a tactical mistake on my end, or just things not going the way, or me just being beat. I never felt like size and strength was the reason that I've ever lost a fight.
Okay. So you work pretty closely with Combat Night MMA from what I can tell. I know you fought for them before you were in the UFC, and I know you have a lot of guys that are fighting on their cards now. Just talk about your relationship with that promotion and how that really came together, because, obviously you fought for them, but most people don't work with them the way you have.
Right. I have nothing but good things to say about them. Mitchell Chamala and Richard Cox do a great job putting on great fights. They give all these guys great opportunities, including myself. You know, I'm proud to say that I went straight from Combat Night to the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell Chamali, one of the promoter, one of the owners, he introduced me to my manager, Steve Swedish,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been a blessing as well. So I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for Combat Night MMA, Richard and Mitchell. So a huge shout out to them, and I'll always remember what they've done for me, and continue. They always have my better interest in mind. They always want to see me win. Mitchell even flew out to my last fight. He came to Texas to watch me fight. So
Really? Wow.
yeah, and over the years I've developed just a friendship with those guys. We can be really transparent with each other, especially when it comes to like matching up our fighters and whatnot.
Okay.
And it's every time I see them at a show, it's like a little reunion, a friendship reunion.
It's really awesome that they were able to back you and then be able to push you into the UFC and get you exactly where you want to be. And now you're really returning the favor, because now you have a bunch of guys that you're filling out their cards with. It's really cool. It's really cool how sometimes these relationships work out between like fighters and promotions and stuff. I really, that's one of the more interesting stories I've definitely heard between a fighter working with an ex promotion.
Yeah, like I said, I've known them since I was 17 years old. So we've known each other for 11 years now.
Yeah,
So
damn.
we've kind of grown and became friends over the years.
Yeah, I could
And
imagine.
they've always supported me. They've always helped me. They've always helped me as far as trying to look for sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell's always told me about stay on your social media, stay just giving me the right advice, because these guys have been doing it for twice as long as I have. So just learning.
Yeah,
from
they were
guys
kind of
that
managing you before Steve was.
yeah, sort of. Yeah, they're
So you talked about how you were aiming for 4 fights this year. So barring your health being okay, because I know you've had some injuries in the past, and a win this weekend, when do you see yourself fighting again?
I'm thinking March or April.
Oh, okay.
Again, I just don't want to. I got to make sure I get my hands taped up real good, and don't break my hands this fight. But hopefully April, and then again summertime, and then maybe one more before the end of the year. I want to try to get 4 in this year and win all 4 of them, obviously, and then hopefully start 2025 with the number next to my name, start fighting some ranked guys, and start working my way up towards that belt.
All right. Well, thank you, Preston. That's all I got. I appreciate your time, and I thank you for the interview. I had a great time talking to you. Definitely talk again.
No problem at all.
Definitely talk again soon.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
thank you for putting this together.
Of course. Of course.